So the Google project was another one that was near and dear to the former governor's heart. The late Governor Palacios, when he stood up this office, the one thing he wanted to do more than anything was create a sorry, let me get the map up. I'm juggling. Was create a foundation, a digital foundation that could be built on for creating a new, diversifying the economy and creating a digital economy out here. And so everybody throws around the word digital economy. Sure, yeah. I mean, a good example of a place that really was able to move forward with developing a digital economy, at least on scale, was someplace like Singapore, for example. And one of the things that is noticeable about Singapore is they invested heavily early on in connectivity to the rest of the world through submarine cables and other connectivity options. And what that did is it created a hub for Asia, right? They became just like before, where they did it with the ports, where Singapore became such a trading hub. And that's what helped them way back in the day. And Hong Kong did the same thing. Is they decided, well, hell, this is no different. Let's create these ports for broadband connectivity or for internet connectivity. And they did that. And in doing so, they were able to kind of corner the market in Asia on data centers, data development. Everybody that had anything to do with digital development there did it. And if you look at the West Coast, Silicon Valley, stuff like that, you have the same thing happening out there. There are people that migrate to places where they have a solid foundation terrestrially on the location they're at. So you make sure that you have a solid digital connection from your home, but then you also want a solid, quick, reliable connection to the rest of the world. And when reliability at that stage usually is dictated by multiple redundant connections. So having one connection to the rest of the world, what happens if it goes down in your finance, you're a FinCEN and data center or something like that, you lose connectivity to your clients. And so when I was talking with the late governor about that, he said, hey, we really have a big problem here. We have our connection to the rest of the world has a single point of failure, and that's Guam. We connect. Everybody here remembers back in 2014, 2015, around that time when we lost connection to Guam.
Yep.
Yeah.
It happened while I was on my way back from the Pacific Games. I had just started about a month and a half prior with CUC. And I was on my way back, and I couldn't make it back, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah. It was an experience to live through. If you were running a business, you couldn't take credit card transactions. Landlines were affected because they were so reliant on backbone connectivity through these submarine cables. And at the time, we only had one cable. It was the Marianas Guam cable that ran, daisy chained along the islands down south to Guam. So when that got severed, we lost full connectivity. So of course, at the time, just like after a storm, everybody's hands go up and they say, hey, we got to fix this. We got to fix this quick. And the fix, in my opinion, was a little short-sighted. And I'm not knocking anyone. We definitely need redundancy. But what they did was they put another cable, the ATISA cable got thrown up, and it was exactly the same thing. It was a single connection to Guam. So now instead of having one connection to Guam, we have two connections to Guam. But God forbid something catastrophic, knock on wood. I love Guam. I'm so thankful for everybody in Guam. Shout outs to everyone out there. But God forbid something catastrophic ever happens in Guam, we lose full connectivity. Like that's a dire circumstance in today's world that affects health. It affects commerce. It affects national security. And so one of the first things late Governor Palacios did is he kind of did something different. He wrote to the Secretary of State, and at the time it was Blinken, and he said, hey, we got a serious situation out here that needs correcting ASAP. And that situation is a single point of failure for our connection to the rest of the world. And they jumped to everybody so long story short, that was a catalyst and one of the little things at the time. They were they were funding a feasibility study, they being the United States, the federal government, and they were funding a feasibility study for what they called the Connect Pacific cable system. It was a little triangle that connected American Samoa to Guam to Hawaii and back down. And so it created this, what we were all just calling like a trusted, secure communication channel of connectivity across of undersea cables. Jump till today, when we did that, I think it showcased that there was a broader connectivity issue across the Pacific. And, you know, everything just aligned. There was a gentleman, like Google had their sites prior to about 4 or 5 years ago. Hyperscalers like Meta and Google and AWS and Cloudflare, they didn't own the submarine cables that they transported data on. Those cables were all conglomerates, like the CUS cable that connects Micronesia, like other cables that go through our region right now. Those are owned by a variety of different businesses. They all chip in, and it's a development of a cable, and then they provide service to the hyperscalers, and that's how they make their money back. What Google decided to do was they were transporting large amounts of data all across the world. They decided, why don't we just develop our own subsea network? And they called it Pacific Connect. And thankfully, the guy at the head on the Google side that I was dealing with lived down in Fiji, I believe it was, for a while, or out in the Pacific. And he had a personal passion. He saw firsthand the connectivity woes of the Pacific Islanders. And so he had this personal vision of connecting all of the Pacific to undersea cables, so that every Pacific island had the same connectivity as anywhere else in the world. And so it was in his mind, this was his passion. And so if you look on your screen, this is his passion in a matter of, I swear it's been like 4 years or 5 years since his inception on this Pacific Connect initiative, is what he called it, the PCI. And so what it started out with was maybe it was 3 nodes for sure. It was Guam, American Samoa, Guam, Fiji, and French Polynesia. And so that they shifted the triangle. They made it more vast that way, and it would have the accessibility to other Pacific islands along the way, right? So if you shift that triangle that was first going to be Hawaii, American Samoa, Guam, if you shift it and you do the triangle between Guam, Fiji, and French Polynesia, you end up with this large triangle that covers almost all of the Central Pacific, right? And so from those cables, you could do what they call branching units, little tethers from the main cables to connect everybody along the way, right? And since then, it has expanded. It expanded to recently, about a year ago, they included Hawaii. And so where that becomes really important is for redundancy as well, and reliability. So now if you look at this map I'm showing you, these are all the cables that are part of the PCI. There are these 5 main cable systems that all connect. Basically, if you look at it, it's incredible connectivity. It connects the United States, it connects to South America, it connects to Australia, it connects to Singapore and Taiwan and Japan and Philippines. And so basically what you have is extreme connectivity, all crisscrossing. You can see it right there. It's what they call a box and cross pattern. It's the most reliable way you can set up an undersea or network system. So if any of those cables were severed, say the one between Guam and Hawaii, you can still get to Hawaii going down to French Polynesia and back up to Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like, you don't lose connectivity unless a multitude of cables are all severed at the same time. And so what this showcases is, again, someone's passion and vision. They said, we're just going to do it. These are all cables that are owned by Google. They're cables that are in progress or already in service. So for some of these, they've already started landing, like TPU has already landed in some areas. That's the Taiwan, Philippine, United States cable. The PROA is a big one that's near and dear to our heart, because we were able to get in connection with Google early on, and we were able to ask them if, when building these structures at the time, because redundancy is so important to these hyperscalers, at every landing point, at every node, they were going to do 2 facilities for redundancy. So if one goes down, the other one's still up. And so we were able to talk to them at the time and get them to consider, hey, do you think instead of putting both of those locations on Guam, you could perhaps put one in the CNMI somewhere? And they've been, and we've been working for the last 3.5 years on that as well. And that's, if you look at all of these main subsea systems, like the PROA, when it comes down from Japan, it lands in Guam, but it splits over here and it also lands. So everything would be what they call a split landing. So should anything happen to Guam, that cable system stays up because it's also landing in the CNMI. Same goes with TPU. It'll split and land in Guam, but it also lands in the CNMI. Same goes with Bulakula. that one splits here and it lands in both. And so what this would do is this provides ultimate reliability and resiliency of the Marianas node going forward. That's where we stand now. This is still a work in progress. We did sign an MOU with them. That's to do everything we can in our power to make sure this comes to fruition. This is an impossible task, and therefore it is going to take some time, but we're working on it. There have been hiccups. There have been challenges, just like the bead project. There are forces out there that, for whatever reason they have, and everybody has their own reason. I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are other priorities at stake here for other territories and for other individuals. Politics plays into it. And so this project right now is still a work in progress. We're still hoping that we're on track. We've been in contact with Google directly. There have been some issues on their side as well, as far as when you build out a system like this and you expand to adding in new nodes and adding in new things and adding, the costs start to skyrocket. So I don't even know what the cost of this whole subsea system is at this point. It's probably like in the neighborhood of $20 billion or something, who knows? But so costs end up becoming an issue. So we're still hoping. I mean, it's still, this map that I'm showing you right now, Brad, is submarine cable maps. It's accessible to everyone. These cables show up when the people building them tell the submarine cable map system that they're building them. And so they're still on as far as the submarine cable map and telegeography is concerned, looking to move forward with this project. I'm hopeful that we get a landing of PROA towards the end of this year or early next year. I've reached out to Google. The storm has been a big factor, and it's going to be a big factor going forward. But I'll give you updates as we go. But this is the vision. This is the hope. Is that, and no matter what CNMI's participation is in on this in the end, like let's say budget constraints get on and they're going to have to kick the ball down the road to get those other ones landed in the CNMI for the next five years, it's still something we should aggressively work towards. And if we could land PROA, that gives us the first trans-Pacific cable landing in the CNMI. And so that's what we're really hoping for. And it gives us the redundancy we need. So if anything catastrophic ever happens in Guam, guess what? We have the PROA that we can hop on. It also opens up the CNMI to competition. Anybody else that wants to come in the area and utilize connectivity won't be limited to the two cables that connect Guam. The truth is, most people, if you're going to do a big development out here, a data center or something, and you're looking at U.S. Land, you're going to probably look towards Guam, because Guam has, if I scroll in here, Jesus, they have about 14 or 16 cables landing on Guam already. All this, the kind of faded stuff are existing cables that are landing on Guam already. So they're fully saturated with submarine cable landings in Guam, and they have become a hub in the Pacific. And they do have high-end data centers there. So what we're able to offer is, if we can get some submarine cable landings here, we can offer a redundancy aspect with Guam. So should they encounter some catastrophic storm or something of that nature, the Marianas is also, the CNMI is also part of the US, and we also will have the similar connectivity options. And we're just a stone's throw from Asia, which is a big market to a lot of the people that are storing data. And so that's kind of our goal. If you build it, they'll come. If we can get the terrestrial fiber to the home done, and we can get the submarine fiber to our islands done, you end up with the Rolls Royce of connectivity, and you position the CNMI to truly be a player in the digital front. I think we already are today, just so you know, because we already have these things in fruition and it's already coming to play. So right now, I put out a call to everybody who's watching across the world: come and do business in the CNMI. If you're looking at anything on the digital front, come on out here and start like making your agreements, getting your land dealings done. Work with our local government and CETA on getting your the incentive programs in place. I know they're actively putting the call out there to the rest of the world. So if I could use your forum today, Brad, that would be a big factor. Is the whole purpose of this is to set up a foundation that can be built upon by people that are much smarter than me, and people that have ideas that are much more grand than we had. We built the ballpark. Now come and play ball. Like, come, hell, change it. Put a pickleball court up if you want. We could care less. do what you want to do on this thing and set it up and use it. And so that's where we stand. I hope that kind of makes some sense, Brad.
Yeah, now we got to cue the Jefferson Starship, and we built this city. And
Dun, dun, dun.
hey, this was a great update, and well, I'll tell you, I look forward to getting you back again, talk more about some of the other stuff, the great stuff that's happening out here. And you know, it's exciting stuff. There's new stuff happening. There's just so much of it, and maybe we'll just take it in smaller bites. But it was just so great to have you on, and